That's stupid. What are you talking about? That's dumb. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. You a fool. You stupid. That's stupid. Right? That's me talking. You can't bring that energy to your wife. Fellas, if you're trying to win every argument with your wife, you've already lost. You can't win an argument with your wife. I'm gonna walk you through what happens when you get into an argument with your wife. Winning an argument with your wife is like winning money from a casino that you own. You didn't really win anything. We have to rethink as men what it means to argue with our wife. And so I'm gonna give you a couple points that I use in my own personal marriage, and hopefully it helps you out. But before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, help me with the algorithm. All right, let's get into it. Point number one, do you want to be right or do you want to stay connected? We've all been in those arguments where it feels like, what am I getting out of this? Like we're sitting here arguing about what directions to take. What am I actually getting out of this? We're gonna get there a couple more minutes sooner if I'm right. What do I get out of having a crappy night with my wife or a crappy day with my wife because I just had to be right about directions? If it's a non-negotiable, I get it. A deeper conversation needs to be had. But you don't get anywhere in your relationship by winning arguments. You get somewhere in your relationship by having better conversations. Tip number two, listen to understand, not to respond. Me, I'm petty. That's my thing. I'm petty. So I'm gonna hit you with I'm gonna hit you with the pettiness. Those are metaphorical hits. Those aren't the abusive hits. Okay. Make sure that when you are listening, you are actively listening. Take what they're saying into consideration. Don't try to just respond with whatever comes to your mind. Don't just, well, you said this and now I got to come back with you and hit you with some heat, hit you with some flame. No. When you're listening, you're trying to truly understand where they're coming from so that you can problem solve together. So for example, in the past and present time, I would listen to argue. I would listen to respond. I would throw things out there and maybe unconsciously it's just like, okay, well, what are you gonna say? And then I come back and now I'm arguing about something that's not even relevant to what we were talking about to begin with. I'm drawn to arguments. I could go 3 hours arguing. I could sit there and have a 3-hour conversation with another man. That's stupid. What are you talking about? That's dumb. That's the dumbest shit I'd ever heard in my life. You a fool. You stupid. That's stupid. Right? That's me talking. You can't bring that energy to your wife. You can't be with your... That's stupid. What are you talking? Are you dumb? Do you hear yourself right now? Are you stupid? You can't do that with your wife. Well, you can, but it's probably not going to end well. Okay, it's probably not going to end well. Tip number 3, pause before you react. Oftentimes someone says something to us, and especially when you don't have good emotional regulation, your blood starts to boil. You start to feel and you just say something. And then when you say something, you realize maybe you said something wrong, but then you have to throw another dart and hit them with a 2-piece. And now it makes things worse. And then they respond to what you say, and now you're just spiraling out of control. When you take a moment to pause before you react, it does multiple things. 1, it gives you time to really cool down and process what you just heard. 2, it gives you time to not say the first thing that comes to your mind. Typically, when you're going back and forth with somebody, the first thing that comes to your mind is not going to be the most generous version of things, right? And I like to say, when you're in a debacle with your spouse, you want to try to give the most generous interpretation. When you don't take that second to pause before you respond, you are not typically giving the most generous interpretation. You're giving them the I want to win this conversation version. So take a second to pause before you react. Step number 4, acknowledge when you're wrong. I know this the hardest part for me. Acknowledging when I'm wrong. Me wrong? How could I be wrong about something, right? That's the mentality, especially when you're in a heated discussion with somebody. Quickest way to defuse something is to own your part. Hey, you're right. I could have said that a little nicer. Hey, you're right. I didn't really take the time to consider you. Hey, you know what? You're right. I'm in my feelings right now. I'm sorry. right? Acknowledge when you're wrong. Because when you acknowledge when you're wrong, that makes it a lot easier for the other person to acknowledge when they're wrong. And it makes it a lot easier for those barriers to come down and for real discussions to happen. So any man that's really out there trying to make their relationships work and you're trying to look at it from a practical perspective, understand you likely would not follow somebody that can never own up to their mistakes. You would not want to work for somebody who cannot admit when they're wrong, and especially when they're putting the blame on other people. And that's typically what's happening in our relationships too, man. We're putting the blame on our wife, we're putting the blame on our children in certain things, even if we're not coming out saying it. And then when we don't admit when we're wrong and we act like we're too good, what we're really showing is that we don't really buy what we're selling. We talk about accountability, we talk about how we're logical, but if we can't admit when we're wrong, everything else goes out the window because now you're just an asshole. Tip number 5, find the real issue. Are y'all arguing about dishes? Is it really the dishes that you're arguing about, or do you feel disrespected? Do you feel like you're not being appreciated for the work that you're doing? Find the real issue. When you find the real issue, then you can begin to problem solve. But as long as you're not really talking about the underlying issue that's happening, all you're doing is treating the symptom, but not the cause. You have to get to the root in a respectful way. You have to get to the root kind of in a finesse way. You can't just go up in there digging and doing all, not gonna work. The real win is a stronger marriage with better communication and both of y'all feeling like you're on the same team. The same team. It's so empowering in a relationship when you feel like you're on the same team, when you're in alignment with goals, when you're in alignment with communication. It makes everything flow a lot smoother. And these arguments that we get into, when we're on the same team, a lot of these things we realize aren't even arguments that need to be had. So fellas, let me know what you think about what I said in the comment section. Did I miss something? Do I got it wrong? Is there a better way to win an argument with your wife? Let me know in the comment sections. Ladies, if you're listening to this and I got something wrong, let me know in the comment section. If I said something you like, let me know in the comment section. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all. I'll see y'all in the next video.